Marcus Sterling's Italian leather shoes clicked against the polished marble as he made his final rounds through Sterling Industries' 42nd floor. The city sprawled beneath him through floor-to-ceiling windows, a kingdom he'd built from nothing but ambition and ruthless determination. At 45, he commanded a business empire worth billions, yet tonight something felt different. The executive gym caught his attention, lights still on past midnight. Marcus frowned. Security protocols were strict. Only senior management had after-hours access. He approached the glass doors, expecting to find some overpaid vice president burning off stress. Instead, he discovered a scrawny teenager in worn sneakers and a faded t-shirt, methodically shooting baskets on the pristine court. The boy's form was awkward, his shots inconsistent, but he persisted with mechanical determination. Marcus recognized him immediately. The janitor's son, often seen trailing behind his father during evening cleaning rounds. The sight struck Marcus as absurd. This kid, who probably lived in some cramped apartment across town, was playing basketball in a facility that cost more than most people's annual salaries. The irony was too rich to ignore. Marcus pushed through the doors, his presence commanding immediate attention. The boy froze mid-shot, basketball clutched against his chest like a shield. "Well, well," Marcus said, his voice carrying the authority of someone accustomed to being obeyed. "The janitor's boy thinks he's going to be the next LeBron James." The teenager's face flushed crimson, but he didn't speak. Marcus circled him slowly, taking in the cheap clothes, the nervous energy, the way the kid's eyes darted toward the exit. "What's your name, son?" "Jake Martinez, sir." Marcus laughed, a sound devoid of warmth. "Jake Martinez. Tell me, Jake, do you actually think you have what it takes to play real basketball?" Jake's grip tightened on the basketball, knuckles white against the orange leather. He'd dreamed of this moment countless times, meeting the legendary Marcus Sterling, but never like this. The CEO's presence filled the gym with an intimidating energy that made Jake feel smaller than his already slight frame. "I practice every night, sir," Jake managed, his voice barely above a whisper. Marcus's eyebrows rose in mock surprise. "Every night? In my gym?" He gestured around the state-of-the-art facility with its gleaming hardwood floors and professional-grade equipment. "Do you have any idea what this court cost to build?" Jake shook his head, afraid to speak. "More than your father makes in 5 years," Marcus continued, his tone sharp as a blade. "And you think you deserve to use it?" The words stung, but Jake had endured worse. Growing up in the projects had taught him to absorb insults and keep moving forward. His father worked 3 jobs to keep them afloat, and Jake had learned early that respect was earned, not given. "My dad has keys," Jake said quietly. "He said I could practice after he finishes cleaning, as long as I don't break anything." Marcus studied the boy with calculating eyes. There was something about Jake's quiet dignity that intrigued him, even as it irritated him. Most people cowered in his presence, but this kid maintained eye contact despite his obvious fear. "Show me what you've got," Marcus said suddenly. Jake blinked in confusion. "Sir." "Shoot. Show me these skills you've been developing on my court." With trembling hands, Jake positioned himself at the free-throw line. He took a deep breath, bent his knees, and released the ball. It arced through the air and swished through the net. Marcus clapped slowly, sarcastically. "Lucky shot." Jake retrieved the ball and returned to the line. His second shot hit the rim and bounced out. Marcus's laughter echoed through the empty gym, harsh and mocking. "There's the real Jake Martinez," Marcus said. "One lucky shot doesn't make you a player, kid." But Jake didn't give up. He shot again and again, sinking 3 of the next 5 attempts. His form was unpolished, but there was something methodical about his approach, a quiet persistence that Marcus found oddly compelling. "You know what your problem is?" Marcus said, moving closer. "You think effort equals talent. You think because you show up every night and throw a ball around, you're somehow special." Jake's jaw tightened, but he remained silent. "Let me tell you something about the real world," Marcus continued. "It doesn't matter how hard you try if you don't have what it takes. Some people are born to lead, others to follow. Some are meant for greatness, others for mediocrity." The words hit Jake like physical blows, but he'd heard variations of them his entire life. Teachers who assumed he'd drop out, coaches who overlooked him for flashier players, classmates who saw only his second-hand clothes and dismissed his dreams. "You want to know what I see when I look at you?" Marcus asked. "I see a janitor's son playing dress-up in a world where he doesn't belong." Jake finally spoke, his voice steady despite the hurt in his eyes. "What do you see when you look in the mirror?" The question caught Marcus off guard. For a moment, his confident facade flickered. Then his expression hardened. "I see a man who built an empire, a man who earned his place at the top. And I see someone who forgot where he came from." The silence stretched between them, heavy with unspoken truths. Marcus stared at Jake, processing the unexpected boldness. Most employees wouldn't dare speak to him with such directness, yet this teenager, this janitor's son, had just challenged him with quiet conviction. "You think you know something about me?" Marcus asked, his voice dangerously low. Jake dribbled the ball slowly, considering his words. "I know you weren't always rich. My dad told me stories about when Sterling Industries was just a small office downtown. Back when you knew everyone's name." The observation struck deeper than Marcus cared to admit. He had indeed started small, working 18-hour days in a cramped office, knowing every employee personally. Success had built walls around him, layers of executives and assistants that insulated him from the very people who made his empire possible. "Your father talks too much," Marcus said, but the venom had left his voice. "He respects you," Jake replied. "Says you're the hardest worker he's ever seen. That's why I practice here. I want to work as hard as you do." Marcus felt an uncomfortable stirring in his chest. When had someone last spoken to him with such honest admiration? His world was filled with sycophants and competitors, people who either feared him or wanted something from him. "Hard work isn't enough," Marcus said, though his tone had softened. "You need talent, connections, opportunities." "Maybe," Jake agreed. "But without hard work, none of that matters." Marcus watched as Jake resumed shooting, each attempt deliberate and focused. The boy's form was improving even in these few minutes, adapting and adjusting with each miss. There was something almost meditative about his approach, a patience that Marcus had lost somewhere along his climb to the top. "How long have you been coming here?" Marcus asked. 6 months. Every night after Dad finishes the 38th floor. "And what's your goal? College scholarship, professional career?" Jake paused, ball in hand. "I just want to be good at something." The honesty in Jake's answer disarmed Marcus completely. Not fame, not money, not escape from poverty. Just the simple desire to excel at something. It was a purity of motivation that Marcus hadn't encountered in years. "Being good isn't enough in the real world," Marcus said, but his voice lacked its earlier cruelty. "You need to be exceptional." "Then teach me to be exceptional." The request hung in the air between them. Marcus studied Jake's face, searching for signs of manipulation or hidden agenda. He found only earnest determination. "You want me to coach you?" Marcus asked incredulously. "I'm a businessman, not a basketball trainer." "You're successful," Jake said simply. "You know what it takes to win." Marcus considered this. When had he last been asked to mentor someone without them wanting something in return? His own children barely spoke to him, too busy spending his money to seek his guidance. "Fine," Marcus said impulsively, "but we do this my way. No special treatment, no excuses. If you can't handle the pressure, you're out." Jake's eyes lit up with hope. "What do I have to do?" Marcus glanced at his watch. 12:47 a.m. First test starts now. I want you to make 10 free throws in a row. 10 in a row? Professional players shoot 80% from the line. If you can't make 10 straight, you're wasting both our time. Jake nodded and positioned himself at the free throw line. His first shot swished through cleanly. The second hit the back rim and bounced out. "Start over," Marcus commanded. Jake retrieved the ball and began again. This time he made 3 before missing. Then 5, then 7. Each failure reset the count to 0, and Marcus showed no mercy. "This is what pressure feels like," Marcus said, as Jake prepared for his 15th attempt. "When everything matters, when there's no room for error." Jake's hands were shaking now, sweat beading on his forehead despite the cool air conditioning. But he kept shooting, kept starting over, kept pushing through the mounting frustration. On his 23rd attempt, Jake finally achieved the impossible. 10 consecutive free throws, each one finding the net with increasing confidence. By the final shot, his form had transformed, smoother, more controlled, purposeful. Marcus nodded approvingly. "Better, but that's just the beginning." Jake wiped sweat from his forehead, exhausted but exhilarated. "What's next?" "Tomorrow night, same time. We'll work on your fundamentals, but understand this, I don't accept mediocrity. If you're not willing to push yourself beyond your limits, don't bother showing up." "I'll be here," Jake promised. Marcus studied the boy one more time, seeing something he hadn't noticed before. Beneath the worn clothes and nervous energy was a core of steel, a determination that reminded Marcus of his younger self. "One more thing," Marcus said as he turned to leave. "This stays between us. I don't need my board of directors thinking I've gone soft." Jake grinned, the first genuine smile Marcus had seen from him. "Yes, sir." As Marcus walked toward the exit, he paused at the doorway. "Jake?" "Yes, sir?" "Your father raised you well." The compliment hit Jake like a warm wave. His father worked thankless jobs to provide for their family, often invisible to the people whose offices he cleaned. Hearing Marcus Sterling acknowledge his father's worth meant everything. After Marcus left, Jake remained on the court for another hour, practicing the free throw routine that had just changed his life. Each shot felt different now. Not just practice, but preparation for something greater. He thought about his father, probably finishing the executive floors above, unaware that his son had just gained the most powerful mentor in the city. Jake smiled as he imagined telling him the news. For the first time in his 17 years, Jake Martinez felt like he might actually become someone special. The next evening, Jake arrived at the gym 30 minutes early, his heart pounding with anticipation. He'd barely slept, replaying the previous night's encounter in his mind. When Marcus appeared at exactly midnight, Jake was already warmed up and ready. "Punctuality," Marcus observed with approval. "Good. We'll start with footwork." For the next 2 hours, Marcus put Jake through a grueling series of drills, defensive slides, pivot moves, sprint patterns. Exercises that left Jake gasping but determined to continue. Marcus's coaching style was demanding but precise, breaking down each movement into component parts. "Basketball is geometry," Marcus explained as Jake struggled through a complex layup sequence. "Angles, timing, efficiency. Every movement should have purpose." Jake absorbed the lessons like a sponge, his natural athleticism beginning to emerge under proper guidance. Marcus found himself impressed by the boy's coachability. Jake never argued, never made excuses, simply adjusted and improved. "Your father's working late tonight," Marcus mentioned during a water break. "He always works late," Jake replied. 3 jobs to keep us afloat." Marcus felt an uncomfortable pang of recognition. His own father had worked multiple jobs, sacrificing everything for his family's survival. Success had allowed Marcus to forget those struggles, to distance himself from the desperation that once drove him. "What does he think about your basketball dreams?" Jake hesitated. "He supports me, but he's practical. Says I should focus on school, get a steady job." Smart man, dreams don't pay rent, but they give you something to work toward, Jake countered. Marcus paused, considering this perspective. When had he last worked toward something beyond quarterly profits and market dominance? His dreams had been replaced by obligations, passion substituted with efficiency. "Show me your best shot," Marcus said suddenly. Jake positioned himself at the three-point line and launched a perfect arc that swished through the net. Again. Another perfect shot. Again. Jake made 7 consecutive three-pointers before finally missing. Marcus smiled, a genuine expression this time. Now we're getting somewhere. Over the following weeks, their midnight training sessions became routine. Marcus found himself looking forward to these encounters, a break from the suffocating world of corporate politics and endless meetings. Jake's progress was remarkable. His natural talent, combined with Marcus's strategic mind, created something extraordinary. "You're thinking too much," Marcus said one evening as Jake struggled with a new play sequence. "Basketball is instinct. Trust your body." Jake nodded and tried again, this time flowing through the movements with fluid grace. Marcus watched with growing pride, remembering his own journey from poverty to success. The parallels were striking: the hunger, the determination, the refusal to accept limitations. "Tell me about your family," Marcus said during a break. Jake's face softened. "Just me and Dad. Mom died when I was 12. Cancer." The simple statement carried enormous weight. Marcus thought of his own family, his ex-wife who'd left him for someone with more time, his children who saw him as an ATM rather than a father. "That's when Dad started working extra jobs," Jake continued. "Medical bills, you know. He never complained, just did what needed to be done." Marcus felt a stab of shame. His problem seemed trivial compared to the genuine hardships this family had endured. Yet Jake carried no bitterness, no resentment, only gratitude for his father's sacrifices. "He knows about our training?" Marcus asked. "I told him. He couldn't believe it at first. Marcus Sterling teaching his son basketball." Jake smiled. "He's proud, but worried you'll get bored and move on." The comment stung because it contained truth. Marcus had a history of losing interest in projects once the novelty wore off. But something about Jake felt different, more personal, more meaningful. "I'm not going anywhere," Marcus said, surprising himself with the conviction in his voice. Jake's smile could have powered the entire building. "Good, because I'm just getting started." 3 months into their training, Marcus made an announcement that would change everything. "I want you to scrimmage against my company team," he said, as Jake finished a particularly intense drill session. Jake stopped dribbling, staring at Marcus in disbelief. "Your company team?" Sterling Industries sponsors a semi-professional team, former college players, some with overseas experience. They practice here twice a week. The magnitude of the challenge hit Jake like a physical blow. He'd improved dramatically under Marcus's tutelage, but playing against experienced adults was an entirely different level. "I'm not ready for that," Jake said honestly. "I think you are, but there's a catch." Jake waited, knowing Marcus well enough by now to expect complications. "You'll play blindfolded." The words seemed to echo in the empty gym. Jake was certain he'd misheard. "Blindfolded? It's about trust," Marcus explained. "Trusting your instincts, your training, your understanding of the game. If you can play effectively without sight, you'll be unstoppable with it." Jake's mind raced. The request seemed impossible, even insane. But something in Marcus's expression suggested this wasn't just about basketball. "Why?" Jake asked. Marcus was quiet for a long moment, staring out at the city lights beyond the windows. "Because I want to prove something. To them, to myself, to everyone who thinks they know what's possible." Jake understood then that this challenge was as much about Marcus as it was about him. The CEO was fighting his own battles, confronting his own limitations through Jake's journey. "When?" Jake asked. Friday night, the team will be here for their regular practice. I'll introduce you as a special guest." Jake nodded slowly, fear and excitement warring in his chest. "What if I fail?" Marcus met his eyes directly. "Then we fail together, but I don't think that's going to happen." The confidence in Marcus's voice was infectious. Jake felt his own determination solidifying. "Okay, let's do it." The remaining days passed in a blur of intensive preparation. Marcus pushed Jake harder than ever, incorporating blindfolded drills into every session. At first, Jake stumbled constantly, disoriented and frustrated, but gradually his other senses sharpened. "Listen to the ball," Marcus instructed as Jake attempted blindfolded free throws. "Feel the rhythm of your shot. Trust the muscle memory we've built." Jake's accuracy improved dramatically. Without visual distractions, he focused entirely on form and feel. His shots became more consistent, his movements more fluid. "Now defense," Marcus said, positioning himself as an opponent. "Use your ears. Footsteps, breathing, the sound of the ball hitting the floor." Jake learned to anticipate Marcus's movements through audio cues alone. It was like developing a sixth sense, an almost supernatural awareness of his surroundings. "This is incredible," Jake breathed after successfully stealing the ball 3 times in a row while blindfolded. "This is just the beginning," Marcus replied. "Friday night you'll face 5 players simultaneously. They'll be faster, stronger, more experienced. But they'll rely on their eyes," Jake said, understanding dawning. "Exactly. While they're watching, you'll be feeling. While they're thinking, you'll be reacting." Marcus felt a surge of pride watching Jake's transformation. The scared teenager who'd frozen under his initial mockery had become a confident young man, ready to face impossible odds. "There's something else," Marcus said, as their final preparation session ended. "The team doesn't know about your background. As far as they're concerned, you're just some kid I'm bringing in for entertainment." Jake nodded, understanding the implication. They would underestimate him, just as Marcus had initially done. "Let them," Jake said quietly. "It'll make the surprise even better." Marcus smiled, recognizing his own competitive fire reflected in Jake's eyes. "Get some rest. Tomorrow night, we make history." Friday evening arrived with the weight of destiny. Jake stood in the locker room, blindfold in hand, listening to the sounds of the Sterling Industries team warming up. Their voices carried confidence and casual arrogance, men accustomed to dominating lesser opponents. Marcus appeared beside him, his usual business attire replaced by coaching gear. "How do you feel?" "Terrified," Jake admitted, "but ready." "Good. Fear keeps you sharp." Marcus placed a hand on Jake's shoulder. "Remember everything we've practiced. Trust your instincts." They walked onto the court together. The 5 team members, all in their 20s and 30s, athletic and imposing, stopped their warm-up to stare. Jake looked impossibly young and small in comparison. "Gentlemen," Marcus announced, "meet Jake Martinez. He's going to scrimmage with you tonight." The team exchanged amused glances. Their captain, a former Division I player named Derek, stepped forward. "No offense, Mr. Sterling, but this kid looks like he'd get hurt out here." "That's why he'll be playing blindfolded," Marcus said casually. The statement was met with stunned silence, then explosive laughter. "Blindfolded?" Derek repeated. "Sir, with respect, that's not even a fair fight. It's dangerous." "For whom?" Marcus asked mildly. Jake stepped forward, his voice steady despite his racing heart. "I appreciate the concern, but I can handle myself." Derek shook his head in disbelief. "Kid, I played college ball for 4 years. These guys have professional experience. Blindfolded or not, you're going to get destroyed." Jake simply nodded and tied the blindfold around his eyes. The world disappeared into darkness, but his other senses immediately heightened. He could hear the team's breathing, feel the air currents in the gym, sense the vibrations of their movements through the floor. "First to 21, Marcus announced. Jake versus all five. The game was about to begin. The opening tip went to Derek's team, as expected. Jake positioned himself in the center of the court, head tilted slightly, listening intently. The sound of dribbling approached from his left, quick, confident steps that suggested an easy layup attempt. Jake moved purely on instinct, his hand shooting out to deflect the ball at precisely the right moment. The gym fell silent as he scooped up the loose ball and, without hesitation, launched a perfect three-pointer. Lucky, someone muttered, but the confidence in their voices had already begun to waver. What followed was a basketball clinic, unlike anything the Sterling Industries team had ever experienced. Jake moved like a ghost, anticipating their every move through sound and intuition. He stole passes they thought were secure, blocked shots they assumed were unguardable, and scored with an accuracy that defied explanation. By the time the score reached 15-8 in Jake's favor, the team had stopped talking altogether. They were no longer playing against a blindfolded teenager. They were facing something beyond their understanding. Derek, growing desperate, attempted a powerful drive to the basket. Jake stepped into his path at the perfect moment, drawing a charging foul and maintaining possession. The subsequent three-pointer brought the score to 18-8. Marcus watched from the sideline, his chest swelling with pride and something deeper, a recognition of potential fulfilled, of dreams made manifest through dedication and belief. Jake's final basket was poetry in motion. He caught a deflected pass, spun away from two defenders, and released a fadeaway jumper that arced through the air with mathematical precision. The ball swished through the net as Jake calmly removed his blindfold. The score, 21-12. The gym was completely silent. 5 experienced players stood frozen, staring at a 17-year-old who had just redefined their understanding of what was possible. Derek was the first to speak, his voice filled with genuine respect. How? Jake looked at Marcus, then back at the team. Someone believed in me when no one else would. Someone taught me that limitations exist only in our minds. Marcus stepped onto the court, his eyes bright with emotion. Gentlemen, you've just witnessed the future. Jake Martinez isn't just a basketball player. He's proof that with the right guidance and unwavering determination, anyone can achieve the impossible. As the team slowly began to applaud, Jake felt a transformation complete itself within him. He was no longer the janitor's son playing in a world where he didn't belong. He was exactly where he was meant to be. The laughter that had once mocked his dreams had been replaced by the sound of respect earned and potential realized. Marcus Sterling had learned something too, that sometimes the greatest victories come not from building empires, but from building people.